This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, my name is Peter Kafka, and I'm going to moderate the call this evening. I do it once a month, usually the second Tuesday advanced call of the month. And I also moderate a couple of low and intermediate calls on twice a month on Mondays. Last night was one. I'm tuning in from Minneapolis, where I'm here for the next 3 months or so, and actually undergoing some treatment, which maybe if there's time I'll describe later. Usually I live in Maui, Hawaii, but I'm spend about 4 or 5 months a year here in Minneapolis in the Twin Cities. So that's where I am tonight. So I know most of you, and a lot of you know me over the years. So, Tom, the way it works is I'm going to ask you a few questions here, just to introduce you to the guys and get a little bit of background. And then we kind of ask you for your concerns and questions that you might have. And then we kind of talk it through for 10, 15 minutes to see if there's ways that we might be able to help you, depending on where you are in your journey. We've got guys and all things prostate here. We've been through the mill, many of us, especially on this advanced call. So we've got a lot of insight. We are not doctors per se, although there are a couple of medical professionals who usually join us on this call, but they are patients as well. They're not here just as doctors. They're usually patients in different fields of medicine, be it different aspects of medicine. So they might have something to say as well. But we don't give medical advice per se, but through our peer experience, we help each other with experiences with side effects, with different experiences with doctors, with different questions about what treatment protocols might be next or what we've done. Just are generally there for each other, listening intently and helping. So with that introduction, Tom, how old are you?
81.
81, and you're from Rhode Island. Okay.
Correct.
And at 81, when were you first diagnosed?
2018.
Okay. Not that long ago. So late in your 70s. And what was your diagnosis at that time?
Stage 3 prostate cancer.
Okay, so Gleason 7 or Gleason 8?
Gleason 9.
Gleason 9, okay.
It had already spread to the seminal vesicles.
Okay.
The first thing I did was run to Mass General, and I met with guys there, oncologists in medical, radiation, and surgery.
Good.
And the surgeon said, forget it, it's spread too far. So we wound up getting radiation treatment, 44 radiation treatments.
Okay.
And then after that, it kept going. It just kept going up. And then we went on ADT. That went down. And then we went on enzalutamide for a while. And Lynparza. And now I'm on docetaxel. And in 6 weeks now, my docetaxel has been working. My PSA is going from 17.5 to 2.9. So I'm kind of happy about that. I'm being treated at Dana-Farber. So I got some top-notch docs there. I've been studying prostate cancer for about 1,200 hours. So I knew something about it.
Very good. Who's your medical oncologist at Dana-Farber?
Hamisha Beltran.
Okay.
And she's a world expert on prostate cancer and the expert on the neuroendocrine carcinoma.
Okay, so you do have neuroendocrine.
We don't know yet. I'm gonna have to do a test, a scan, a PSMA scan to see what comes out, and then an MRI maybe.
Okay, well, you haven't had a PSMA scan yet.
I have, yes,
Okay, good.
but not. I haven't had the lutetium added yet.
Okay. And okay, well, it sounds like you've done your homework and you're in a good place for treatment.
Yeah. The best, I think.
Yes, you're one of the best for sure. And you're getting good response from your therapy right now. Did they do any genetic tests on you? See if there was any genetic component, either germline, inherited
Yes.
genetics, or
yes, and
okay.
I have a BRCA2. Yeah, I have a BRCA2 biallelic defect. So that's good.
Did they say that it was inherited, germline, or was it a genomic?
No.
Cancer itself made it.
It's not inherited.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
good. I have that as well.
Who's the expert here? Somebody help me. I thought that biallelic was a germline character. Can genomic mutations be biallelic? Len, do you know that? Len, do you know that?
An allele is just a gene variant, so it's not specific to germline or somatic. Yeah. It just means a mutation in a gene.
Right, but what does it mean when it's biallelic? I thought that meant that both sides.
So
that's correct.
You still have both sides, right? Even the somatic has two sides, and you need to knock out both of them for the thing to, in many cases, for the mutation to have an effect.
Okay. Thank you, Ben.
So Tom, when you did chemotherapy, you did carboplatin as well, or not?
I haven't had that yet. That may be next, depending. If we go to neuroendocrine, then we'll definitely get the platinum.
Okay. So I guess my question at this point, your PSA is down to 2.5, and you've had a fair bit of treatment. Have you done okay with these treatments? Have you tolerated these things okay? The enzalutamide and the chemo and so forth?
Yeah, I've been, nothing worked until we got to this docetaxel.
Okay.
Nothing worked until then.
Okay. So do you have any
kept failing. Everything failed.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm really curious about that. In that, and I'm wondering what Dr. Beltran has to say about the fact that you didn't respond to a PARP inhibitor, Tom.
We did Lynparza.
Right, but you didn't respond to it, correct?
Olaparib is Lynparza.
Right. But yeah, you said, what I'm saying is, what did Dr. Beltran say because you did not respond to the olaparib?
She said, well, we'll move on to docetaxel.
I suppose that's as good as anything. It's curious to me why you didn't respond to to the PARP inhibitor, because usually if you have a BRCA mutation, the PARP inhibitors work pretty well, no matter whether they're germline or somatic. And I'm just curious. It's just unusual.
Well, also, I was also getting terrible side effects. It wasn't very tolerable.
So fatigue or anemia, what were you getting?
A lack of energy, fatigue, a lack of appetite. I couldn't eat, blurred vision, many things, hot flashes. It was just bad.
Yeah, well, the hot flashes are not from the Lynparza, and not from the olaparib, but I'm sure there are a bunch of things. But I find it curious because almost everybody we've been working with olaparib and PARP inhibitors, I think, for at least 6 or 7 years now, and most men that we've seen at least get some response. It's a question of how long. It may only be 8 or 9 weeks. It may be 2 years, but we've seen pretty good response. It's unusual to me that you don't get any response at all from the but it may be that she took you off it quickly. I mean, she's a very good and very compassionate doc, and she may have just said, I want to move you on to something else.
Right.
Well, my olaparib started on 12/20/21. It was 5.17, and on 4/22/22, it was 14.35. It had consistently gone up on Lynparza.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's unusual. We usually see a response from Lynparza, and I'm puzzled. That's all.
Carl, you did what, 2
Okay.
years on Lynparza?
That's correct. And it kept my PSA undetectable for about 18, 19 months of those 2 years.
Yeah. Carl's got a germline BRCA mutation, so he's had a number of the same treatment protocols as you have, and he's still working the system here. So, Tom, do you have any specific concerns or questions about or thoughts about what might be next or which direction you're headed?
What I'm worried about is cachexia. 60% or more of the people who arrive at this stage 4, will get cachexia.
Cachexia.
And the oncologists never talk about it.
Yeah. So we do talk about it, Tom. In fact, I sit on a committee which is organized through the cancer support community on cachexia. The reason we don't talk about it very much is because you don't really see it until, in most cases, the last 6 months of life is oftentimes when we see cachexia, and that's not always true. We see some people become cachexic when they start chemotherapy, and it reverses. But one of the big problems, and one of the reasons we have this working committee, is because we don't know what to do. We can identify the symptom, but we don't have good treatments for cachexia right now, other than to put people on supplements, on those liquid supplements, and they work for some, they don't work for others. But I would say that unless you are you continuing to lose weight because you you said you couldn't eat when you were on the Lynparza. Is that continuing?
I've lost about 10 pounds in the last couple of months.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
just because you don't have a solution for it doesn't mean that the MO shouldn't talk about it.
well,
You know,
have you raised it with Dr. Beltran?
oh yeah, we argue all the time.
So what does Dr. Beltran say about cachexia?
She says that they don't really have a treatment for it yet. They got a lot of things coming down the pipeline now.
Well, we know that, but you see, there's no point
And
in
she's
talking
not sure I have it, you know.
Well, there you go. You see, I think she's smart, and I don't think the MO should be that your medical oncologist should be raising it unless they see it as an issue. If it's not an issue, why create anxiety for somebody if it may not happen? Now, if you get to the end stage, yes, it's definitely worth talking to. And I've worked with people who have had cachexia. I can think of maybe half a dozen in the last 15 years that I've worked with. And I'm sure Peter has too, because I know that he's worked with a bunch of people that have been end stage. But we don't harp on it because a lot of people, even with advanced disease, they may die from something else. And so, and you don't really see cachexia until the end. Not, as I said, not always. Some people get cachexic and they recover. So for those of you who don't know what cachexia is, it's a wasting away, basically. It is a situation where you can't eat and your muscles waste away. And essentially it's because the cancer is growing very quickly and the cancer is using more energy and calories than you can put into it. Len, would you, or Herb, do you want to comment on cachexia? We don't often talk about it here.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it, Rick. I wanted to ask Tom, it could be diet related. You're probably trying to eat healthier. Maybe you're cutting out carbohydrates or, sugars, cakes, cookies. That'll cause you to lose weight. Could that be an issue?
Not really. I eat enough carbo and protein. I recently had recovered my appetite, and I'm making good use of it.
Yeah, the other thing is drugs like enzalutamide can make you lose your appetite. Are you still taking that, or you dropped it?
No, only docetaxel is the only one I'm on now.
No ADT, no Lupron.
Xtandi, no, no ADT, no Xtandi, or nothing like that. Darolutamide, nothing.
Certainly, docetaxel is often accompanied by weight loss.
Yeah.
But I don't see why. If 60% of
I think we lost the volume there. Hello? You were saying 60% of something?
Yeah, God, what's going on?
We can hear you.
We can
Oh,
hear
okay,
you.
thank you.
Speak up.
Since 60% of us will get cachexia, why not talk about it? I mean, if we're in stage 3, we talk about stage 4.
Yeah,
This is
but
just like stage 5.
Tom, first of all, it's pronounced cachexia, not cachexia. And
Right.
and where do you get the where do you get the statistic that 60%? I challenge that statistic. Where do you
Okay, that's
get the
what
statistic that 60% of us, of those in the here, will get it?
in my
Where does that
research,
come
I do a
from?
lot of reading of articles.
Well, you may well do, but you have to. I think that you misread something there. I'd suggest you misread something there. I don't think it's as high as 60%. I mean, let me ask our brains trust here. We've got Ben and Len and Herb. Have you ever heard a number as high as that, gents, for
No.
cachexia?
Oh, I haven't.
No. But I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
unless-
again, it
Unless you're
depends
talking
on,
Yancey.
In
I
advanced cancer, it's 60 to 80% in advanced cancers, like a non-small cell, small cell lung cancer, rather.
Yeah, but we're talking about prostate cancer here.
And
We're
so
not talking
prostate's
about
at
all cancers.
60%.
Let's talk about prostate cancer. Here's my concern, Tom. We have a lot of people listen to this call. I don't want them walking away and saying, "Oh my God, I'm bound to get cachexia," because it doesn't happen. Now, I can't argue with you about lung cancer or other cancers, but I can say to you that even with advanced prostate cancer, we don't see anything like 60% of people suffering from cachexia. We see it for sure, but I don't think it's that number. And I would ask you to come back next Monday and with a statistic for prostate cancer, and then we can have a more meaningful discussion.
Right. Yeah, we've had some remarkable guys on
Okay,
this.
thank you.
We've had some remarkable guys on this call. This is the advanced call with late stage disease. Some even talking to us from their hospital bed or their hospice bed within a couple of weeks of their demise, and they're hanging in there. I mean, it's inspiring and remarkable, actually, even though they know that the end is in sight. They've been some of the most inspiring people that we've had, and we're here for each other. I mean, certainly if we sense that someone needed some more extra care, do you have someone taking care of you? Do you have a partner or a caregiver with you? Tom?
Yeah, you're muted, Tom.
Your microphone is off now.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I turned it on.
Okay. You're okay now. Do you have a partner or a caregiver or someone who lives with you that's helping you?
I have a wife, but she's no caregiver. She can't do it.
Okay.
That's the worst. One of the worst parts of cancer is what it does to my wife.
So we have a support group just for people, for partners, wives, caregivers. It meets twice a month, and I would suggest she join that because it's a candid, open talk because they have their own challenges with us. So on our website, we can give you more information about that. Do we have your email?
Yeah, we should have.
Chat window, or you can give it to us.
My email.
Sure.
Hey, want me to say it?
Sure.
RIBPACKER@gmail.com.
Robert I. Brown.
R-I, no,
Packer.
R-I, as in Rhode Island. And then BPACKER as backpacker, stands for backpacker.
Okay, R-I-B Packer.
@gmail.com.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll send you some information about the caregivers call, and we'd like you to keep on with us because this is probably the best support you'll get. we're here for each other in many, many ways. There's a lot of guys that live up in that area that are often on our calls in Connecticut and in the Boston area and so forth. Okay. But anybody
I've
else?
had pretty good. I've had pretty good treatment.
Good.
The on the DABDA, denial, anger, blockade, depression, acceptance is so far in the rearview mirror, it doesn't matter.
Good. Yeah, this will shake up your life at whatever age. It's amazing. Well,
He went
I'm
offline
glad to hear
again.
you're as positive as you are. I mean,
It
that's
shows he's offline. Oh, he's back now.
Am I still there?
Yeah. Tom, we're going to move on to some other guys and stay with us here because you'll enjoy hearing some of their stories and what they're working with. And it'll probably make you feel
Thank
quite a
you.
bit. Okay, so hang in there. Okay. Alan Babcock, you want to update us with your quick story?
Yeah, real quick update. Just one piece. You know, Rick had suggested I go and seek out a different physician. I was hesitant to do that, but on his advice, I did it. Best thing, great move. And that Fox Chase, they just took it right in stride. I am very emotionally attached to Fox Chase, but it's 1 3/4 miles, hours away from my home. So I wanted to go there for my radiation. I need radiation and hormone. And I finally realized that was not doable. So I'm going to get my radiation at the Penn State Cancer Institute, but I'm going to stay down at Fox Chase for my hormone therapy. And Dr. Gainsman, he's getting a PSMA for me, even though it doesn't apply to what he's doing. He said, I don't give a rip really. You know, he said, I think you could use that. So I'm going to order it because he said, we might get something good. And he said, you got an aggressive cancer? Okay, we're going to be aggressive. So thank you, Rick. He was great. And you can get treatment in 2 different places. I mean, nobody's batting an eye on that.
Right. Very good. Excellent.
And don't be afraid to be assertive. I mean, I always thought of myself assertive. Yeah, I got to work on it. So there you go.
Yeah, I get treatment in 3 different places. I mean, the sky's the limit here. It's our health we're talking about and our life.
And our life. So that's, yeah, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, while we're in Pennsylvania, Jim Barnes, why don't you're on the other end of the state too. What do you have going?
Yeah, my question was really just regarding Pluvicto and my cancer center here in Pittsburgh, the Hillman Cancer Center. Yeah, they're telling me that Pluvicto isn't available because of, I don't know, I hate to use the word supply chain issues, but I guess it is. So what's the alternative people are doing to find Pluvicto and get that treatment?
Well, I'm gonna put Rick on this one because he's the master. He can look up and tell you who to call within a few blocks of you probably. And, if you're getting a runaround.
So I spoke this morning with our people at Novartis, and the problem that occurred was that, and we kind of expected this, there was a much greater demand than they anticipated when they came back online earlier this year. And as a result, they got behind, about 3 to 4 weeks behind in terms of supply. And they hope to catch up by the fall. That said, they are not bringing any new sites online until the fall. So if you're at a site that has never provided Pluvicto, they won't get any they won't get any of the drug until probably September, October, or more likely October. So what they recommended was that if you are in line to get Pluvicto, try and find a location close to you that is already providing it. Now, we know where some of those locations are. In your case, Jim, it's unlikely that you're going to be ready for Pluvicto by October anyway. You can always switch. So you can go to somewhere who is providing right now for your first or your second treatment, and then they will switch you back. So if Hillman in Pittsburgh is on the list but hasn't provided yet, they should be able to provide probably by October, November, which means since the treatments are 6 weeks apart, and if Appleman wants to put you on, he's going to have to help you find a location for the first treatment. Now,
you had mentioned in the first paragraph or so that you said there, I wouldn't be ready for Pluvicto until September of October. What would make you say that?
well, I mean, aren't you still working with your docetaxel?
Sure. But as you recall our previous conversations, it was more or less as much docetaxel I could handle, and then we would switch to Pluvicto.
Okay, so I mean, we're in the first week of August. Are you saying that you're ready right now to switch to Pluvicto?
Oh, let me tell you, docetaxel does not disappoint. I mean, all the side effects are there. So I mean, if I could go to Pluvicto with less side effects and the same or better efficacy, I would jump on it. And if it didn't work, I'd go back to docetaxel if that's within standard of care.
Jim, there's no data that at your stage, moving from docetaxel to Pluvicto is the same or better efficacy, because all the data from Pluvicto are based on people who had courses of docetaxel.
Anecdotally, and this is totally anecdotally, the one person we know who didn't do any chemo hasn't gotten a lasting response at all from Pluvicto, but that's totally anecdotal.
And the other thing is, Jim, I mean, if you can tolerate docetaxel, it's usually pretty effective.
I agree.
Everything I've heard. Up until Pluvicto or these more other things came along, up until second generation anti-androgens came along, it was the standard of care, and it worked. So is it working for you?
It has brought down my PSA. I just had my second treatment 9 or 10 days ago, so I'm just coming around now out of my what I call my docetaxel hangover.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's
but it
good.
has brought 100%. It brought my PSA down, and if it continues to do that, that's a good thing. So,
what did it bring it down to?
My PSA is low to begin with. I mean, at this stage it was like at 3.8. Now it brought it down to like 2.5 after one treatment. So we'll be interested to see the next test.
Right. So have you done a PSMA? Have you done a PSMA scan yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, and the only thing that lit up were two spots in my pelvic girdle. So
Okay.
Definitely low volume.
But you know that you're PSMA positive.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the same as PSMA?
I would agree with Herb. I mean, I would try. I mean, the name of the game in managing prostate cancer has always been get the most out of every treatment that you possibly can. And none of these treatments are pleasant. None of them come without side effects. We know it. But unless the side effects are totally debilitating, then stick with them best as you can and try and milk each one for all it's worth. I mean, that's kind of Len just I don't know if Len's there. Len, wasn't that Dominic's MO? Milk each one for all you can, because whilst you're doing it, something else will come around the corner, right?
Exactly. And that's how he lasted 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And it's how doctors think as well. I mean, most doctors think that way too. Let's get as much mileage as we can out of this course.
So, to answer your question, we'd need to figure out who's delivering PSMA, lutetium PSMA in Pennsylvania, or close, and I don't know, but we could certainly find out. But Dr. Appelman is going to know where people can get Pluvicto right now. But if you need me to, I can check with my folks. I do know, where's that list that I had here? Here it is.
Yeah, and I think Hillman is on that list.
No. Well, he's not on the list that I have from about 2 or 3 months ago. But was Hillman, has Hillman provided treatment already?
I mean, sure, everything from radiation to ADT to docetaxel now. Yeah, sure.
But have they done Pluvicto?
Has
no.
Hillman provided Pluvicto treatment to anybody yet?
I cannot answer that with confidence.
Okay.
But my knee-jerk reaction is to say yes, but no, I don't know for sure.
So there is a site in Hershey that supposedly was, but when I wrote this down, she couldn't remember the name. But there's definitely a site in Hershey that is offering Pluvicto, so they would still be offering it.
Yeah, Hershey
How
Medical
far is
Center.
Hershey
Yeah.
from you?
There might be some places in Ohio too, in Eastern Ohio.
I don't have anywhere in Ohio on the old list, but we could, I can check it. I can check, but I don't want to do that. I mean, I think the steps are to check with Dr. Appelman, see if he knows where it's being offered right now. And once you're ready, if none of those sites are convenient, then let me know and we'll try and track down whoever the radionuclide entity is in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
And by the way, Pittsburgh and Cleveland are exactly 2 hours apart, so that's actually even closer. So, but that's very helpful. That's a very common sense advice. I don't want to say advice, but what you just shared in terms of get the most mileage on every treatment you can.
Okay, Jim.
100%.
Okay, well, a lot of this we can discuss offline because you've got the connections with Rick and others, and so figure this one out. But I'm glad you're tolerating the chemo. as well as you are, and it's working. And that's a big positive because not everybody gets that kind of response. Very good. So,
Okay, well, thank you. Now, I'll count my blessings on the track that I'm on now.
so while we're on the theme of Pluvicto, Herb, is that something you want to bring up tonight or something else?
Well, no, interestingly enough, I went for a dental cleaning today, and they wanted to take X-rays, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm hot. Salivary glands are where Pluvicto also goes. Has anybody had any X-rays while they've are on Pluvicto? Because I'm curious as to whether or not, I mean, my hypothesis was, George, George is saying something, but my hypothesis was that in fact it wouldn't be, they would not get any decent X-rays.
Interesting. Anybody have a response for that one? Anybody had anything going on that they needed X-rays, pictures of? Bob G in
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
I mean, I'm a retired dentist, so dental x-rays is looking for changes in density of bone or density of tooth structure. So I don't know if having a radioactive element in your body is going to really make that big of a difference. It's not looking for radioactive, it's looking for, like I said, change in density.
Well, but if there's a radioactive sore spot between the tooth and the film,
Yeah, you might get interference. I'm not sure what the wavelength coming off of Pluvicto.
it's a beta emitter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it may give interference and you might just get a really bad film out of it. Never ran into that in my career, so.
Right. I mean, because it's in the salivary glands, which are surrounding, basically you're putting, I mean, it may not matter because it's out, it's in the path.
Yeah, though most of the salivary glands are in the floor of the mouth.
Uh-huh.
So you have a little bit of salivary glands in the cheek, but most are the floor of the mouth. So, I'm not sure how much interference you would get with that. So.
Herb, it's Dennis. I had a dental x-ray while on Pluvicto and it was clear and accurate.
Okay, great. Well, that's why we have this group.
Yes. Great information. Peer support.
Thank you, Dennis. He was
Right,
huffing
thanks,
me
Dennis.
for half an hour earlier on today, and I said,
come
come
on.
on the group and ask the guys. Somebody will know.
Yes, we get it right from the horse's mouth here.
There you go.
Right.
Peter and Herb, this is Mark. I didn't know if now's the appropriate time to ask, because you're talking about Pluvicto. For those folks that are on Pluvicto, what do they find are the most dominant side effects? I mean, clearly the salivary glands, so you might have dry mouth, maybe a metallic taste, maybe a little bit loss of taste, like you get in COVID. Anything else that people find is particularly noteworthy?
Well, I haven't had enough doses to have experienced any of that, Mark.
Okay.
So I can't say. But I do know, didn't Les say that he had dry mouth and taste changes?
Yeah.
Which came back.
Yeah. Okay.
Not Les. Les hasn't done it.
Dennis.
Oh, who was it then?
Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis?
So yeah, I had dry mouth, I would say first week after treatment and usually in the morning. But it goes away after you have some fluids for me. And fatigue for the first 3 or 4 days after treatment. The other thing is blood counts. There is a negative impact on your blood counts over time. Your white blood cells, red, hemoglobin, platelets
Yeah.
So you got to watch that.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. And later on,
Dennis,
Herb, Peter, I have another question, but I'll wait.
how about fatigue? Because we've heard that as well. Is that right or wrong?
I think it is. I mean, Nancy tells me that I'm tired the day I get it.
Yeah, 3 or 4 days after treatment, I feel it. I'm just lethargic, not a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's common with many treatments.
Yeah, not for me, it was not too different from SBRT. Same sort of fatigue side effects. And again, on those days when you're feeling fatigued, if you go out and exercise, you feel better.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mark, as long as you're on a roll, why don't you go ahead and talk about what else you wanted to
Well,
bring
the
up?
other thing I was talking about, and actually I was talking to Rick about a few things the other day, and actually one of the things we talked about, and later on if we have a chance we can go through it, but I don't want to hog the time right now, is I'm considering going on a CAR T clinical trial. So, and thank you very much, Rick. I did talk to Dr. Tarp in City of Hope, and she gave me some good information. Anyway, one of the things I've noticed in general with all my different treatments, and I've had most of them, is that I'm a bleeder. I have thinner skin, and I have slower clotting time. So, I get a small scratch from a rose bush when I'm mowing the lawn, and it looks like I've been in a knife fight. So I didn't know if other people had found experienced that from either some of the supplements they're on, some of the medications they're on, and or whatever. And if so, if they had anything that they added to their diet or whatever that they found helpful.
Does your bleeding, it clots up? Yes, it doesn't. When you say you're a bleeder, it's not like some out of control nosebleed, right? It does clot
No,
up.
it clots up, but as again, if I get a little scratch, my whole arm will have blood all over it until such time as it eventually clots. And if the next day, for instance, I happen to knock the scab off, then the bleeding starts all over again. So it's a relatively slow healing, slow clotting time. It's not life-threatening, but it's annoying.
Yeah,
So Bob, Mark, have you mentioned this to your hematologist, oncologist?
I have, and they really have kind of like, they didn't really have anything of great value to offer. I'm going to bring it up again. Maybe I haven't been forceful enough, but.
Well, yeah, because I mean, there are lots of potential reasons for clotting defects, and but obviously they probably didn't see anything obvious because they would have mentioned it to you, right? Like low platelets.
Yeah, well, obviously with some of the treatments on, I do have lower platelets, but not dramatically lower. And so anyway, I just didn't know if anybody came up with it. If not, I'll talk to my hematologist again. They have not been a great fountain of information about it. Maybe what I got to do is next time I go in, I'll just scratch myself and bleed all over the place, and maybe they'll say, "Oh, what the hell's that?" So they'll take me seriously.
You're not alone, Mark. I've been this way for several years. I kind of attribute it to thin skin, getting older. I don't know. I mean, I can't. If the wind blows wrong, I get scratched up whenever I go out and do yard work, and I'm not even aware that I've cut myself or I'm bleeding. I come in, there's just blood all over the place. I keep a bottle of vinegar by my nightstand to wash out my sheets or my pillowcase.
Yeah, okay. So Peter, I had the same thing, and I thought it might be due to my having no testosterone, that in itself would thin down your skin and or blooding. But bleeding, but don't know.
It could. I'm not sure what, I don't know what I can attribute mine to, but I've had it for several years. I'm anemic. I've got very low hemoglobin and hematocrit and so forth. I've never been on blood thinners, but I just have that effect. I mean, my arms are always kind of red and blotchy and scabs all over the place. I don't know.
Len, you have your mic on. You want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to let Mark know that there are two very common lab tests that they can do to test if your blood is clotting normally. They're called PT and PTT.
Oh.
So you could always ask your doctor, or even just your PCP doctor, your primary care, PT and PTT.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll take a shot at that.
What's your platelet count?
I have no idea, Len. I mean, I'd have to look at it, but if you look at, because I've been in so many treatments, I look at that all the time, and my platelet count is near the, it's within range. It's near the bottom of the range, but it's
that's
within,
fine. If you're over 100, you're in good shape.
It's within normal range, so it's just low. So
no, that's fine.
Just a quick hand count though, while I'm talking to folks. How many folks have had, who are on some sort of active treatment, have a port? They have a port so that they don't have to get infusions. Peter, who else? Peter's the only one. Okay. The reason I ask is I got a port initially when I got docetaxel, and when I did, that's really only like 6 treatments, and 5 of the 6 treatments, they couldn't get it to work very well. And then you have to, if you want to keep it, then you have to continue to get it flushed all the time. And it turned out to be just a nuisance for me, so I decided to have it removed. If I end up going to a clinical trial where I might have to go in and get meds like every week, then I might go back and think about getting a port. Okay, thank you for that.
So
yeah, I kept mine in for 2 years after my chemotherapy, and I didn't see it as I just wanted to keep it because I just did not want to go into the hospital and get it removed during COVID. I just wanted to stay away from that. So I just go in for 10 minutes, have it flushed every 6-7 weeks. But now it's come in handy because I'm getting Keytruda treatments through my port, and they take my blood here every 3 weeks through it. So I'm glad I kept it. Otherwise, I'd have to be stuck in my arm all the time. And I do that once a month anyway, and I'm glad I have it.
I mean, there are definite pros and cons to having a port, and if you're getting regular treatment, there are real advantages. And if you have crummy veins, etc., etc. But I will also say that for a lot of people, if they have decent veins and it's not a big deal, then they do fine without it. So, we could probably hear both sides of the coin. I think it's a personal choice, very much a personal choice.
My platelet count's been over 200 the last number of months, 215, whatever. So I don't.
Thanks all.
Yeah, that's a good tip, Len, about the PT and PTT. I'll ask about that.
What I wanted to ask, because I didn't have the answer for Mark when we spoke, are there any common drugs, any drugs that are used regularly in the treatment of prostate cancer that result in thinning your blood? I mean, I know I used to take a junior aspirin and I bled like crazy for years, and I stopped and it went away. But are there any drugs that guys might regularly take that could result in blood thinning?
Well, aspirin and NSAIDs, but mostly aspirin. Rick, that's the key. I don't think any of our chemotherapy drugs per se have that effect.
And the hormone drugs? What about our hormone drugs?
I haven't read that as a side effect. Len?
No, I've never heard of that in any prostate cancer drug.
Okay.
Well, that's good. I like to be unique, so what the hell?
But Mark, basically, and Len pointed out the test, but basically, there's a whole clotting cascade of different clotting factors. And the bottom line is that if you have a problem with any one of them, you might have problems clotting, and it's not just platelets. So I think a prothrombin time or a PTT will give a clue if it's prolonged, and then they can look and see which particular factor you might be missing.
Okay, good conversation. Okay, is that it, Mark? You're good, okay. Okay, Bob G. from Philadelphia, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I'm pretty new to not just this group, but prostate cancer. So I'm 2.5 months, almost 3 months into ADT. I was at de novo, high volume metastatic, and I've had 2 docetaxel. My question is with osteoporosis and prevention. So after my DEXA scan, turns out I'm osteopenic and wanting to be proactive. So I asked about Prolia, and turns out my insurance company won't cover Prolia twice a year, but they'll cover Xgeva 4 times a year, which to me seems a little overkill at this point, because I'm just wondering what people have done to help keep themselves from getting osteoporosis, and at what point in treatment. And I'm thinking, maybe Xgeva twice a year, maybe start with bisphosphonate. I mean, I'm not severely osteopenic, but I don't want to, go down the wrong road. So I'm just curious what others have done.
Right. So I know Cal wants to say something, but let me just give you my 2 cents on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, the doctors are supposed to give, if they know they're putting you on longer term hormone therapy, the guidelines specifically say that they should give you a bone density scan.
Right.
But
Which they did they did that right away.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yeah, that's why I know I'm osteopenic.
Right. So, but a lot of them do forget. And so if anybody is on long-term hormone therapy here and has not had a bone density scan or hasn't had one in over a year, you need to ask your doc to please come back and to please order one for you. It's very easy. You lie on the table, the machine goes over you, and that's it. In my case, diagnosed at age 56, I found out I was osteoporotic, and you could have knocked me over with a feather. I mean, I was running, I don't know how many, 2,500 miles a year. And I mean, I thought I was, I thought I was, my bones were strong. Then I thought about it and I realized my sister has it. My dad had shrunk a lot and it made sense. And they gave me at the time Zometa. Xgeva had just come out and it helped. I also changed I did 3 Zometa infusions over 2 years, one at the beginning, one in the middle, one at the end, because I wasn't clearly metastatic. They suspected micrometastasis. But if you're metastatic, it does make sense to get denosumab. Now, the usual dosage, I think it's actually even more frequent if you have clear bone metastasis. I got a feeling that Xgeva is even more than every 3 months, but I'm not certain about that. I can't remember. One of the guys will know because they're getting it. There's a lot of guys on this call getting denosumab, either as Prolia or as Xgeva. If if you don't want to get it as often, talk it out with your GU medonc and get it at a frequency that you're comfortable with. You know, you as a dentist know very well the downside of denosumab, more so than most people. So you're more reluctant to get it than most people, and I get it. So
Well,
I just think,
yeah. I mean, the other thing is the longer you're on it, the more chances of negative side effects.
yes,
But
but here's
I'm
the
just
other
wondering,
thing.
I'm sorry, I was just wondering how soon does it take to be on ADT where you start seeing, osteoporotic
Well, but
activity?
But
here's
Bob,
what I
you're
would say to
already,
you. Here's what I would say to you. First of all, yes, the longer you're on it, the more likely you're going to see side effects, but it has an exceptionally long half-life. So a lot of times we've had guys and we said to them, come off of it for a couple of years, come off of it for a year. You know, talk to your doc, but you could come off of it because the half-life is so long. So I would say that if you're already osteopenic, you should be getting something. And you should also be, where are you weakest? In your hips, your back, your spine? You're muted, Bob.
Sorry, neck of the femur. One of them's minus 1.1, the other's minus 1.6. So it's not terrible. I'm just over the borderline.
Okay. Well, I mean, I got to tell you, I'm like that right now after all these years still. So I think that one good thing to do is to talk to somebody about giving you a good exercise plan.
Oh, I do that. I have that set up with a trainer. I'm doing every other day, weights and walking every day.
Okay, but are they specifically to strengthen the areas where you're weak? So what you want to do is say, this is where my bones are weak. I need exercises to strengthen those areas where my bones are weak, not just general exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they'll know what exercises to give you. In my case, you know, I was doing squats with some weights on my shoulder to stress my spine. It's very, very hard sometimes to stress the spine, to find exercises that will stress the spine. But that's my 2 cents. Let's go to Cal Van Zee and then to Herb. Go ahead, Cal.
Yeah, I've been on ADT for, I don't know, more than 2 years. I was on Zometa the whole time, every 3 months, except when I was on docetaxel during the I don't know, 5 months or so that I was on docetaxel. And, you know, I get bone scans. I was threatened with some preventative surgery in my hip, but the orthopedist says that my femurs look great, even though I've got metastases all over all over my pelvis. So I haven't noticed any negative side effects associated with it. The only time I was off of it was when I was on docetaxel.
Is that something you should avoid during chemo? Because they had
I
talked
don't know.
about doing it.
I was just following what my doc
Okay.
recommended.
I mean, because they had talked about giving me the first shot at my next chemo appointment.
yeah. I mean, Bob, when I was diagnosed immediately, they did a DEXA scan. And surprisingly, again, like Rick, I had been running like crazy. I was a long distance runner and I was osteopenic. So immediately got denosumab and have been on it ever since. And it has reversed some of the osteopenia. So the numbers have gone in the right direction. Now I'm also taking calcium and vitamin D twice a day.
Yeah, I've been doing that as well. But so maybe it is worth start the Xgeva twice a year and see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's all they'll pay for, then yeah, that's what you have to do.
Well, they'll do it 4 times a year. I'm just concerned that that's a little overkill this early.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't. again, to me, I haven't looked at the dose, and the half-life. But if you're saying twice a year and the half-life is such that after 3 months there's nothing left, I don't know that I would go that route.
Hmm.
Do you have bone metastasis, Bob?
I do. I have 2 larger ones and 4 small.
That's probably why they denied the Prolia and said go with Xgeva. That's my guess anyway. I'm not a insurance guy, but I've been on Prolia for 8.5 years, but I've never had bone mets, so I've been able to get it.
Bob, I suspect the reason why they stopped the Zometa for Cal is because Zometa is given as an infusion and processed through the kidneys.
Right. So during
Same
chemo,
as the same as the chemo.
right.
So they didn't want to overstress the kidneys, whereas Xgeva is given as a shot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Guys, I gotta leave because life in my house with my daughter here and her family is more chaotic than usual. Now, I noticed you talked about Xgeva. Did you guys go over the fact of just making sure that everybody's aware that if you're on Xgeva, you have to also be aware of any dental work that could result in having mandibular necrosis? Everybody's.
Yes, it's
Dr.
not just
Bob,
mandibular.
Dr. Bob, would you like to address this as a professional, please? And give us some advice, because you're allowed to as a professional.
Okay. So, I mean, it's pretty rare. It's probably more common in Zometa and in the bisphosphonates, but you know, it happens every once in a while. Most of the time, it's associated with tooth extraction or someone who just has a dental problem.
Yeah.
So if you take really good care of your teeth and you have good, healthy gums, the chances are, I won't say slim and none, but a whole lot less than if you need dental work. And you know.
Yeah, Bob, I agree with you. What I was trying to say is, and I didn't say it very well, is for instance, I had to have an implant. And so with an implant, I had to stop Xgeva for I think it was 2 or 3 months. And then we got all the work done. And then we went back on Xgeva when all the work was done. So it's if you have serious dental work that involves the bone. If it's just the normal stuff that old guys like us get, then it's not a big deal.
Right. And the bisphosphonates are a bigger problem because they stick around so much longer.
I mean, I have to say I had an implant and did not discontinue Xgeva.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it works different.
So, I mean, basically, it's so rare. You're just, right?
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah, Zometa is a much more problematic for that kind of thing, and of course the bisphosphonates, just because denosumab works differently. Okay, so I appreciate the advice. I think I'll just start with every 3 months like they suggest, and we'll see how it goes.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Bob, what is your trainer doing with you for your legs specifically?
So I'm doing squats. I walk a ton. I live in a 6-story condo, but usually I'll take the steps. I'm on the 4th floor, and oftentimes I'll walk up to the 6th and come back down. I mean, right now,
as far as weights though, it's just squats?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm doing just a basic, whole body workout. I hadn't really thought about the idea of working on specifically where I have the weakest bones, and that's something that I think I'm going to go back to the trainer and ask about what I can do to basically it would be working on the hips.
I sure would if I were you.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I will. Thanks.
Great.
That'll be good advice for all of us. This spring once in a while for a trainer to get on the right track, so we're not just doing things out of route. Well, good discussion. Thanks very much, Bob.
Thank you.
Ben, let's jump to you.
So just bringing people up to date, I had when we last tuned in a lung biopsy, which was positive for the kind of cancer I had in my prostate. I had subsequently a PSMA PET scan which found no additional metastasis outside of the lung, which I took to be good news. I've started on relugolix, and when that wears off, I'll be taking Lupron, and it looks like Dr. Rathkopf was able to swing darolutamide.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Good, good, good. So we're not seeing anything right now. Everything, all the scans are clear, Ben?
So she did not do an FDG, and I didn't press her for it. I had just had a CT with contrast, and it did not find any visceral mets in particular. I mean, other than the lung, it found nothing in the liver, and she was ready to let it go at that, and I was as well.
But the PSMA was negative, you said.
Negative, yes, everywhere else.
Okay. Are you happy with that? You don't say, you sound gloomy. You sound so gloomy when you're reporting this. And we think you say, "Oh, this is great," you know. But yeah,
it is great, and the prognosis for lung is pretty close to that for bone. So yeah, it's incredible. I had no idea it would be that clean.
We're
modulo the cancer, I feel right.
We're delighted to hear it, Ben. I mean, this is very good news.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Very
Anybody
good.
want to talk to Ben about that or say anything? See,
Well, Ben,
if somebody else can get him to smile.
I'm a little surprised to hear that you were never on ADT or second-line anti-androgen before this.
So during the radiation, I had actually, and I extended it at Rick Surging. I had a year of ADT while I was on radiation, and in fact, the response was great. It just brought my PSA all the way down. So I expect that my response is going to be great now too, at least for a while.
So what was your starting PSA before you took the Firmagon shot?
Oh yeah, so that's the part I hadn't mentioned. It has accelerated. It doubled in 6 weeks to 0.56. So it had been rising, and it started rising faster. So yes, when I started 0.56.
Okay. But I just want everybody to take a little lesson out of this. That yes, it doubled, but doubling from 0.28 to 0.56 is not the same as it doubling from 5 to 10 or 20 to 40. I mean, it might be mathematically, but I'm not sure that it is clinically. And I'm not a doc, but that's just my own impression. Would anybody like to comment and blow me away on that?
Yeah, I think that's basically true. It has to do with coefficient of variations and all this. We'll have to ask one Dr. Nancy Geller for more info. She's the expert.
She's not available at the moment, so.
I think you need to have a longer track. You know, just 1 month doubling time doesn't really tell you much. You need to be able to track it for 3, 4, 5 months and see what the trend is, even at lower numbers, because it could in my case it indicated something, but it's not just 1 month, I'm sure.
Yeah, Dr. Rathkopf was not overly concerned. She noted it, but she didn't say it was something I had to worry about.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Ben.
Thanks, Peter.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, Rich, how are you doing?
Oh, we're having fun.
Okay, good.
Rick was going to have kittens if I didn't speak this week, so. And since he just threw the cat out with the dishwater on the doubling time. October of 21, PSA was 4.06. January, 4.09. April of 22, 5.27. July 25th, 10.57.
Looks like something's on the move.
It appears it could be. Right now, the urologist blood work is the one that pulled the 10.57. I asked him to schedule either a gallium-68 scan or Polarify scan. Probably the gallium-68 should be available here. Appointment with the oncologist, Dr. Fleming, on the 17th. So another 10 days, another 8 or 9 days. So right now, nothing's going to occur for treatment until after the scan. Currently, I'm taking nothing other than some Flomax, but nothing for the cancer itself.
So,
How long have you been on drug holiday, Rich?
Last active ADT should have started leaving the body January of 19 or so. I was on it for 12 months there with just Eligard and Lupron. So that should pretty well be out. I had some radiation treatment back in 20 to some lymph node involvement. Last scan I had was a Polarify scan in January of this year. The radiation treatment to the lymph nodes had knocked them down considerably. I've got a touch periaortic, some lower iliac, bilateral iliac, right and left hip. Some cervical spots that are equivocal. They're still flipping the coin. A couple of spots in the lower lobes of the lungs that they're flipping a coin on at that time because they couldn't tell, but there was also some ground glass that showed up in the lungs, so they weren't overly concerned. This scan should provide a little bit better picture depending on which one of these little wildcats have gotten active.
right. Rich, I think I mentioned this to you before, but if you're going to get a gallium scan, I would suggest the Illuccix, ILL-UCIX, which is made by Telix, rather than the Novartis AAA Locomets. And the reason for that is because you can get an overread on the Telix scan. I've mentioned this here before. So even if they don't have a lot of expertise in Norfolk, Virginia Beach on reading these scans, and you can ask them how many they've read, Telix provides an overread, and you can ask your doctor to send it back for that overread. So you'll have some expertise in reading the scan. It's free, and I think it's a good insurance policy. The actual scan is exactly the same, whether it's Locomets or whether it's Telix. It's a gallium-68 PSMA 11 scan, which is what they were giving at UCSF and UCLA. But the kits to actually do them in the doctor's office, there are two different types of kits, and Telix makes one and AAA makes the other.
Okay.
So Rich, did you say your urologist has ordered this or an oncologist?
The oncologist and the urologist were swapping out. I saw each one of them every 6 months, which means I got checked every 3 months. It just rolled around that this was the oncologist's turn to poke me, or the urologist's turn to poke me.
Good.
But
they're talking to each other.
they're talking bad about me to each other, yes.
Yeah.
Have you, you had mentioned to me, you'd asked me about the genitourinary faculty at Duke. Have you given any more thought to that, Rich?
I have, and since we're somewhat in a holding pattern waiting for the scan before anything occurs, I'm guessing I'll probably see the oncologist prior to the scan, and I can get a feel for how well he's going to play well with others.
Right.
So rather than start something in Philly or Duke or Houston, I'll see what I've got to work with on this end.
Yeah, makes sense.
And if I need to, go get my GP up to speed on chemotherapy right quick to follow instructions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anybody else have any questions for Rich or comments?
No treatment recommendations. No, you need to do this. My heavens, I've never heard this group this quiet.
Well, Rich, because we think you'd probably know what you need to do.
I've got a direction in mind.
I mean, why, we don't have to say it.
And Mr. Jackson, we really love you. And so you don't hesitate to come to one of us and ask us what to do, if you're not sure, or, I mean, we know you well enough that you'll reach out when you need to, with occasional prodding. Sometimes a little prodding is required, but we're here, and just keep us posted. I don't know what else to say, but I think, it sounds like you're reconciled that you can't do nothing anymore. I'm hoping you are.
No, I'm not reconciled with that at all.
Oh God, don't say that.
But
I think everybody's afraid of you, Rich.
Well, I mean, Rich, if you were reconciled to that, you wouldn't be getting these scans.
No, because the scan will tell me where I can blackmail the radiation guy to shoot. See, right now he doesn't have a target.
Right.
With the scan, we may have a target.
True.
Have you been out on any long rides on these long summer days?
Just got back from the Shenandoah River for a 3-day. Did Boone Bike Rally in eastern part of Carolina a few months back, and considering heading back to the next event, which is beginning of September.
Very good.
Okay. All right.
Okay. How about the Hoovers? Russ?
Russ and Regina.
I got you on my list.
Yeah.
Hoovers?
Can you not hear us, Russ? Regina, can you hear us?
Regina's mic is off. Russ's is on.
Yeah.
Your
mic's on, Russ.
Your mic is off.
Russell, your mic's on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I
have one question, but I want to go last because I have a feeling half of you will disappear.
Go ahead.
Russ, you go ahead first.
No, we can't hear him.
Maybe your volume's down.
Russ, you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Russ, turn your speaker on.
I tell you what, why don't we come back to you, Regina? Go downstairs or around the corner and get the two of you together and then we'll come back to you both. But right now we're not doing so good.
Okay, Jeff Marchi cut out. Jerry, you
Well,
had
I did not cut out. I'm still
Oh,
here.
you're there. Okay, sorry.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
back. Okay, you're back. I see.
So I was only gone. I had to move to a different wireless connection.
Okay, go
I
ahead.
can't move from my house without changing routers.
Okay, go ahead.
I just had my latest PSA test, and it was a surprise. I've been on abiraterone for 18 months, and then after 8 months, I went from 0.8 to 2.2, and I was pretty freaked out that I was ready to get a PSMA PET test, as a PET scan. I would take 30 days to get to it, but I figured I'd wait 1 more month. Well, 6 months later, my PSA was down to 0.4, then 0.3. It's been 0.2 for 4 months, and 3 days ago it was 0.1. And I do have BRCA2. It's gonna come back, but after 18 months of abiraterone going way up, I've come down. It's just give people, if they're on it, some thoughts about if your PSA is going up, it may not stay there. That was about it.
That's good news.
Yeah,
I
I'm
like that
shocked.
report.
Yeah. When it was first 0.2, my oncologist, Harstark, said she thought it might be a lab error. And then it had it for 3 more months. So it's not a lab error. It's just weird. It's just weird. I have changed what I'm eating a little. I'm not eating as much meat. I'm red meat, and I'm also, walking more. But I don't think that 2 of those should, it's strange, but good to hear. It will eventually go back up. That's the thing with this disease. It doesn't let go.
Your BRCA is somatic or germline?
Somatic. No, it's germline.
Germline.
My grandfather had it. My aunts. It's through though my mother had it and had no symptoms. Lived till 88 and had no symptoms.
Well, this is great. Good news.
Yeah, I was shocked. I expected it was going to go up, but well, you never know. Lupron lasted 4 years, and maybe Abby will last me a couple.
Yeah, another example of riding the treatment as long as you can. Get
Really?
as much mileage out of it as you can.
Well, don't quit early. Just it is worth trying it out. 2.2 really freaked me out, but it came down.
Anybody else have any
How
comments?
was it going up?
Excuse me?
Over what period of time did it continue to rise?
8
initially?
months.
8
After
months?
after starting Abby, it went up for 8 months.
Consistently.
Yes, and then it hit 2.2.
Did your doc have any explanation for that?
No. It actually it went up 3 times. It went from 1.4, then went down to 1.2, went up to 1.6, 1.1, 1.0, 1.6, and then 2.2. And so it did bounce around a little. And then it just went, I mean, it sure stabilized at 0.2 for 4 months. I know Herb and I were having the same 1.6.
Right.
He had it for 3 months in a row, and I had it 1 month and didn't, and then had it again. And fortunately, it's moved toward the better for now.
Very good. Okay. Okay, Jerry Pelfrey. You're on a
Yes,
Provenge
sir.
adventure, right?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to give you an update on that because last week I was really leery as to whether I was going to do the Provenge or not. But thanks to Rick and a new paper that came out, I'm scheduled to start Provenge August 22nd.
Good for you.
Thank
Good
you,
job,
Rick.
Jerry.
So that's all I wanted to say is I'm doing that, and then I'm getting the L4, radiographed, X-rayed to get rid of it. So other than that, the gallium 68, everything was fine. No new, only that one spot on L4. So I'm done. That's all I wanted to say, Peter. And I know you've got a lot to keep going. So.
Well, not that much.
So,
Are you in Mexico?
Question. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you able to do Provenge in Mexico?
No.
Okay,
All my
question.
I go north to the U.S. for everything, to Tucson and then up to Phoenix at Mayo.
Okay.
So you're doing your leukapheresis in Tucson, Jerry?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, these guys can give you next week. They'll give you a little primer on the leukapheresis. You know, you're supposed to take some stuff in that you can watch because you've got to stay very still for a while. Make sure your iPad is well loaded.
Right.
Is that good advice, Professor?
Absolutely. Although when my room actually had a TV if I wanted it, but I brought my iPad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very good. Okay. The Hoover's back. You there you go. You on, Russ, now? Can you hear us? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what's wrong with this machine. Probably the operator. Anyhow, my update. I went to see Dr. E in June. We did a Polarify and the whole bank of blood work things. And my PSA back then in June was 0.214. I came back to Florida a month after that, roughly, did another bank of blood work things and got a PSMA PET scan, all of which this was sent to her. And last week I had a telemed with Dr. E, and basically the 20 to 25 spots that I had on my prostate and my bones have disappeared. There are two fine little spots in my prostate, which she said just leave sit. We're going to, leave them sit for a month or so, run another scan and see what if we need to do anything. And if so, she was talking about radiation to hit those two spots. I guess from what I understood of what she was saying, that these two spots, they weren't quite sure whether they were active cancer or whether it was scar tissue that looked like active cancer. And I never heard of that before. I just wondered if anybody ever heard of that. And the second thing would be from you guys, if I have to get radiation here in Florida, do you guys have any recommendations?
What was the scan? What was the scan that identified? What type of scan was it that identified those two spots, Russ?
Polarify.
It was a PSMA scan.
Yes. and two of them, one in June and one in July. Question?
So, I mean, I certainly, that's a bit above my pay grade, but I wouldn't want to argue with Dr. E. I mean, it's quite possible. I think I know what she's saying. Sometimes when these lesions are dying, they can express PSA and PSMA. But what I don't get is that healthy tissue can express PSMA. So I'm not sure how, if you've got a gland that's still in place, how they can see anything on that gland, because the whole thing ought to light up. I don't know. I mean, I need some help from Herb or Len or somebody on there. So I'm not really sure how she even sees two spots in the gland unless she's done unless she did another type of scan at the same time. Did she do any other type of scan at the same time you had the PSMA?
The Polarify you're talking about?
Sorry, yes, the Polarify. That's the PSMA.
No, we did that while I was in Houston, and she sat down with the wife and I and showed us what I called the cucumber slice of my body, and went down through, and there was just these two little spots somewhere in my prostate. Now, where, I can't exactly tell you.
Right.
But
did she do?
She wasn't worried about.
But when you did all those tests, did you do an FDG scan as well?
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's another type of PET scan, but that's sensitive in a different way.
No, we didn't.
Or Len, do you want to try and explain?
Yeah.
Well, the FDG is basically a metabolic scan, Russ, where they're measuring the uptake of glucose or sugar into your cells under the assumption that a cancer cell is growing faster, so it's taking in more radioactive glucose.
Okay.
That's the FDG scan.
Okay.
And usually what they'll do is both. They should do both. And I would expect somebody like Dr. E does both, because they want to compare the FDG scan to the PSMA scan, which is the Polarify scan.
Okay. You know, maybe she did. We just talked the word Polarify when we met with her the day after the test.
Mm-hmm. I can see that she might be able to see those two spots in the prostate off of the FDG scan, but
okay.
I can't see how she could see it off the PSMA scan. Can you, Len, or Herb, or Ben, somebody else?
Well, I mean, if there's a high SUV max localized, then she would see it.
Right. In other words, it's more shiny.
It's darker. It's darker, right?
Or it's darker. But is that does a lesion give off more PSMA than a healthy tissue?
I am not sure, but my guess is that it might, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'm happy with the fact that my PSA went from 0.214 in a month down to 0.14. And basically, she took me off the Lupron and the enzalutamide.
Okay.
Here's my question relative to his drugs. Dr. E also scheduled him to start a couple of new drugs, Nubeca, which is darolutamide, and relugolix, the pill form of Lupron. So that's what he's going to be starting.
Thanks.
So she's moved him from one set of drugs to another set of drugs. Okay. And then we're talking radiation possible also for the two spots. And I saw the same cucumber slice that he saw that he's talking about. Basically, the machine showed the picture. She brought it in showed us the pictures of the actual scan, slice by slice going down his body from head down to toes. It was fascinating. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
Well, that sounds like either CT scan or an MRI.
I'm not sure which scan it was. He ran through so many scans with her, I got a little lost there. But showing me the machinery with the slice and you know, slice after slice after slice, showing all the clearing in the bones and showing the two spots is fascinating.
Yeah. Well, you would have known if it was an MRI. You'd be put in a tunnel and a lot of loud noises. They give you headphones to protect your ears. If you didn't have that, it was probably a CT scan.
I had nothing to protect my ears. Okay.
Yeah, it was probably CT.
Well, they usually do one or the other in conjunction with the PSMA. That's what I've had. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
That's what we're saying. But let's talk a little bit about. I mean, obviously, Dr. E thinks you've got to go back on medication. So let's talk about the medications that you're going back on. The relugolix or Orgovyx is essentially the same drug as the Lupron or Eligard or Zoladex, whatever you were getting before.
Right.
It does exactly the same thing, and it
in pill
has
form.
pretty much the same side effect, but it's in pill form, and so you can stop it and you can ramp it up and ramp it down more quickly. But in terms of the side effects, once it gets in, you are going to be back on hormone therapy. In terms of the darolutamide, that has more limited effect than the enzalutamide, what you call the enza-suicide that you were on before. It does the same thing, but it doesn't cross the brain barrier. You shouldn't have as much mental fog, and you should feel better. Now, that's just the description, but you've got to talk to Peter or Len or any of the other guys who are on Orgovyx. And is there anybody? Oh, yeah, Peter, aren't you on Orgovyx and darolutamide right now?
No, I only made it on Orgovyx for a month for other reasons.
That's right. You've got the rash.
Therapy, darolutamide.
Right.
You should be able to handle this pretty well. You'll find it pretty clear sailing compared to other treatment regimens.
I'm on both of those.
And how are you doing?
A lot of fatigue in the morning, but I walk and it goes away.
Right.
And then just a little bit of brain fog, but not a lot. Just maybe with age, I don't know, but it comes and goes. I still get a few hot flashes, not as many as before, but still there. And then every now and then my bones will ache. But it's funny. It happens at night when I get up and go to the bathroom, come back. I feel some pain, if you will, in my bones, and then 5-10 minutes later, it goes away. So I try not to go to the bathroom that often.
I have a question.
I'm doing okay.
Are any of you guys on those two drugs plus docetaxel? I keep reading these articles that adding docetaxel to those two drugs really improves outcomes.
I did. When I did chemo 2 years ago, I was on both those drugs. I wasn't on Orgovyx. I was on Lupron and darolutamide. Rebecca.
So again, what you're reading is what's called the triplet, and you're reading it right now because of the new FDA approval for that triplet therapy for hormone sensitive, metastatic hormone sensitive men. But that's really more of a therapy that is being prescribed initially when men get diagnosed. I mean, it could be prescribed now, but I think that, again, you've got to trust Dr. E, and Dr. E knows that Russ is pretty sensitive to these medicines. And if she doesn't think it's necessary and she thinks that he can manage his disease without the docetaxel, I personally wouldn't be pushing for it. But you can write her and ask, what about adding docetaxel? And she might come back and say, well, you want to get rid of him?
No, we did ask her about it, and she says it's not necessary. So she said, never mind. So it's just bonus. But I was curious to see if anybody else was on there.
You got the same answer from us.
Okay.
I like confirmation.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it my turn to ask a question?
Sure.
All right, guys, let me start with a little bit of history. I understand a little bit about what ADT does. It removes testosterone, which is the male hormone which controls a lot of the sexual functions in men. My question is this: how do you guys and your spouses or your significant others deal with the fact that you no longer have a libido, but the spouse or significant other still has desire?
It's a challenge. I mean, this is a great topic. I don't know if we have the time to get into it 2 hours into this, but it's a great topic.
Isn't this for the
other guys will tell you something different, but you get from a male standpoint, you got to work at it. I mean, you got to I don't know. It's the male version of faking orgasms. You gotta step up to the plate and do everything you can to make sure she feels that you're in the game somehow, even though you don't have the physical or emotional or mental capacity to be there. You've got to make it up somehow, whether it's back rubs or writing romantic cards or whatever it is. You got to step up to the plate. That's my experience.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Jimmy Greenfield has some information on ways if you have a problem with erections. He has a very successful way of handling that. I'm not sure if I see he's still here, but I don't see him saying anything. There is an injection you can get. Trimix, is it? No.
Yes, Trimix is the injection.
Yeah.
I'm not even interested in erections. I'm just interested in the closeness and the romance.
Okay. You know, it's interesting. It might be there, but he just doesn't. He feels it, but doesn't express it.
None of these drugs will keep you from giving back rubs, foot massages, or none of it will stop you from writing romantic cards or whatever you got to do.
No one else want to speak up and give Regina some more feedback
or advice. I'll take advice.
Or offer to speak to her offline if you don't want to speak in the forum. I get it.
Well, at least nobody ran away.
Regina, you're welcome. You're welcome to call my partner.
Okay, I'll do that. Give me the number.
Yeah.
You got to set time aside. You got to make it an intention. Maybe it's a date night, and we're gonna do this. God damn it, and I'm serious.
Sounds like it's a lot of effort.
Well, if it is a lot of effort, then
it's a lot of effort on your guys' part.
If it's a lot of effort, then you got to put a lot of effort into it.
You're right.
It's a hump you got to get over.
Without testosterone, there is zero interest on our side.
I'm well aware of that.
And that's the problem. It is effort. It is, you have to fight through it because there's nothing there to push the issue. There's no spontaneity. The thought process doesn't enter your mind. It's not that.
I'm curious. A lot of this is because of lack of testosterone. Could it also be some of the way some of the drugs, enter the blood-brain barrier?
Could be, but testosterone is the big one. I'll email you with my partner's email and stuff, or have her contact you. I think it would be good for you to talk to another woman about this.
It would be great. Thank you.
Has anybody read Saving Your Sex Life, A Guide for Men? I bought it, but didn't read it because that's not a problem yet. But I think with the ADT, it's going to become a problem.
So that's a good suggestion, Saving Your Sex Life. And then there's another book, and I think I've mentioned it to Regina before, and we have a video on it. We have a webinar on it with Marilyn and Alan. Can anybody help me with the last name? Peter, do you remember? We've got a webinar on it.
Right. They're well known though.
Is that the one, Love Life with Impotency or
something like that? Yeah. Let me see if I can bring it up. And there's a whole deck that's on our website on this, and it's all over, but there's something. Is that what it's called? They've written a couple of those books.
The one I have is Intimacy with Impotence. But that's not the lack of libido. That's the lack of an erection.
What do you remember? Do you remember the name? Who wrote that? Let me see if
I listened to a webinar put on by Dr. Rachel Rubin, who was excellent, had some excellent advice.
Yeah,
but it wasn't enough.
Yep. And the Saving Your Sex Life is Mulhall, Dr. Mulhall from up in New York.
Right.
And the one with Intimacy with Impotence is Ralph and Barbara Alterowitz.
Say the last name again.
Yeah, I don't pronounce well, but Alterowitz.
Alterowitz, yeah.
Alterowitz.
W-I-T-Z. Okay, thank you. Yes, I'll put that's the one I was trying to think of, and we have that on our website. And here is the link for it. I'm putting the link right. Oh, I sent that to Jeff Preston by mistake. Sorry, Jeff. But this is the link for that Alterowitz. And then Saving Your Sex Life is the one by Mulhall.
And I found an article by our own Richard Wassersug.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So Regina, I don't want to dismiss this. I mean, this is a really important subject, and we probably should devote more time to it rather than the end of the call. I have one more guy I want to get to before we cut out, but I will write to you an email, and I'll give you my partner's number, because amazingly enough.
Thank you, Peter.
Together romantic.
It's important to retain the relationship.
My partner and I got together romantically at the time I was diagnosed 8.5 years ago. So that was a roadblock right away. And somehow we've made it through, although she might have some other things to say. I can't speak, I will not speak for her, but we try hard.
Regina, do you have the chat window open? Do you see what we've put in the chat window for you?
Yes, I do. I've seen it, and I already clicked on the connection.
Okay. All right. Well, and yeah, again, come on back and we'll talk about it some more. And and we'll try and lean on these guys to get a little more vocal. But it's a tough subject for everybody, and we get it.
I understand that, but I also think that positive relationships help you survive.
Everybody, and we get it.
I understand that, but I also think that positive.
Okay.
Okay, so Jeff Preston, sorry to put you off to the end here, but I'm very cognizant that you wanted to say something. Hope we didn't lose you. Oh, there you are. You're here, Jeff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There you go.
Jeff, we can't hear you, but you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Have your volume
Now?
turned on?
Yeah.
There you are.
Now,
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, when I was with you a couple of weeks ago, I was just about to meet with my Duke, have a video consult with my Duke radiologist for the first time. And my question was, I don't want to go that far. I live basically in Asheville, and I didn't want to have to drive all the way 4 or 5 hours to Duke for, certainly not every day, but I'd have to live there for a while for the radiation. And you said, well, see if he'll refer to you somebody in the Asheville area, which he was willing to do. Very happy to do that for me. And as well, I have somebody that's in the town that's just a little bit closer to me that I'm going to actually go see next week. And before I go to have consults with these people, because I want to make a decision between these two, I have some questions, 3 of them, and maybe I'll start off by telling you all 3 of them, and then you can address them as piecemeal as you want or together, whatever you'd like to do. The first thing is, and I think this was a question that Herb, I think, asked me last time, was, do they have a target for the radiation yet? And I don't know. We don't have any target other than a rising PSA from 0.21 after the surgery, 3 months after the surgery, to 0.47 2 months after that. I just had another test today. I don't know what the results are yet, but that's all we're going by. And so I really want to, from things I've watched online from Dr. Kwan, I think, from Mayo, who says you really should get a PSMA before you start taking off on anything these days, because you need to know, to what extent you have, issues and or where to target things. And so my question is, 2 questions around that. One is, if it takes me some time to get that scheduled and done, should I put off doing anything like starting hormone therapy or moving forward with radiation before that? It doesn't feel right, like I should. And then secondly was a question around having expertise of reading these scans. Dr. Kwan seems to think that there's a lot of variation since it's so new. Not everybody's as good at reading them. And my question then is, should I go back to Duke to have the PSMA done, since they've probably been doing it longer than they have been doing it in Asheville? So that's one question. Another question is on ADT. Should I just let the doctor decide what I should take, or is how do you work with the doctor to make that kind of decision? And then also along those same lines, what kinds of questions should I be asking in regards to radiation when that time comes?
Well, let me answer the first question. I'll let others deal with others. You don't want to start ADT before you take a PSMA scan, because it'll make the PSMA scan less effective, especially if your PSA is down below around 0.5 or something, or 0.4. You probably want to get the PSMA scan soon rather than start something else. But I'll let others talk other things.
Yeah.
So I'll jump in and say that whilst I don't often agree with Dr. Kwan, not that he cares, I do think that it makes a lot of sense to do a PSMA scan before you start your salvage RT, because it will identify exactly where the lesions are. When did you When did you do your? Oh, you did your RP with Judd Moore on the 5th of January of
Correct.
21, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. And who is it that you're seeing in? Who's the GU medical oncologist that you're seeing at Duke?
Dr. Moll's the only one that I've seen. I talked to Dr. Lee, and he's the radiology guy.
He's a radiologist, yeah. Okay, so you've only seen Dr. Moore. That's fine. I mean, I think they can guide you well enough at this point in time on the salvage. But yes, you definitely need, and you should be able to see it once you get above 0.5. So you may have to defer. I mean, to be comfortable, I would say 0.65 is what we seem to think around here. But you're going to just bide your time. And when you get to that 0.65, you'll want to get a PSMA scan. Now, in terms of the PSMA scan, you have 3 choices. You have 2 choices, but one of them comes wrapped up in 2 different flavors. So there are 2 different types of PSMA scan. And I've talked about this 2 or 3 times already tonight. So did you pick up enough from my earlier discussion or not?
You know, I know we've been talking about PSMA, but I don't know that I picked up the options that you were referring to.
Okay, so there are 2 different types of PSMA scan. One is with gallium,
okay, and
the other is with 18F fluoclavine. I think that is 18F DCF PYL, which is the Pylarify scan.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's the one I assumed that I would be getting. And I guess I heard you say before that they show a little bit different things. Is that the?
Well, we think that the gallium scan is a little bit better because the Pylarify scan, although it shows more detail, has a proclivity to false positives. And the Pylarium, the people that make Pylarify, Lantheus, are supposed to be correcting that in terms of their artificial intelligence, because their scans are read with artificial intelligence. So if you get a Pylarify, you don't have to worry because it's standardized throughout the country. That doesn't mean to say somebody at Duke with a really good eye is not going to read it better, but you have the confidence that of the low height of the bar, if you understand, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yep.
With the gallium scan, and I want to bring up, I can tell you where that gallium scan is being offered. The gallium scan, you'll be able to get at Duke for sure, and you may be able to get it locally. Let me just see Cardinal Labs. Where are those? Where's that Cardinal Lab? Radiation scanning and screening. I found this pretty quickly yesterday. Here it is. So let me look. I have a list of the pharmacies throughout the country. They're owned by Cardinal, and they're distributing this gallium scan. So what we've got to do is we've got to look and see where the gallium scan is in terms of North Carolina. So there's one, Greenville, Raleigh, and I don't know where the heck this is. Greenville, Raleigh, and Greensboro. So are any of that, where's Asheville? My geography is not that great.
When you say Greenville, you mean South Carolina?
Greensboro.
Yeah, that's North Carolina.
Raleigh.
Yeah, that's North Carolina.
And Greenville, North Carolina, 27834.
Okay, because the near to me is Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, so then there's also a lab in Wilmington.
Okay.
So I don't know what part of South Carolina you're
I'm in the western part. I'm in the or in the mountains.
Ah, okay.
They may
So
want to
there's
check.
another one in Asheville.
Okay,
Are you
well,
in
that's where
Asheville?
I'm just, that's where I probably would be going.
Okay, so if you're in Asheville, there's a pharmacy at 55A Shiloh Road, and the telephone number is 800. I'll give you the local telephone number. The local telephone number is 828-277-6600. And if you want to get a scan locally, whoever's going to give you that PSMA scan, tell them you want the Telix scan, Telix. This is what I was telling Rich Jackson before. Telix, the name of Telix is the manufacturer. The name of the scan is Illucix, ILLUCIX, ILLUCIX. And if you get that scan, we can assure you of an overread, meaning we can send it back to Telix and Telix will reread it. So it doesn't really matter on the, even if they've only seen 5 or 6, you have to ask them, how many have you read? And if it's, a small number or less than 100, less than 200, you say, I want an overread. I know I can get an overread from Telix. And if they give you grief, Jeff, you call me and I'll call Telix and we'll get it sorted for you.
Okay. Spell Telix for me again. T-L-I-X?
T-E-L-I-X.
T-E-L-I-X. Okay.
Okay. Now, so you had one question about when to get the PSMA scan, and the answer to that is wait until you're over 0.5, hopefully 0.65. You have one question.
Let me follow up on that a second. I've had this conversation at the very first time I visited this. I'm getting pressure from my wife who says, we can't wait around any longer. It's already rising, and everybody's telling you should go, have this work done. And everything I've read says don't rush into this. Let things play out a little bit.
Ask your wife, would she rather you went and got a scan right now and you didn't get a result? That's not going to help. Is your wife? I don't mean to be facetious. Is your wife a doctor?
No.
Okay, so if she's not a doctor, how does she know the difference in the way that your disease is going to spread if you wait from 0.47 till 0.65?
Then Rick, why did my doctor say that I'm at 0.2? And he said, I don't give a rip what you're at. We're going to see because we might get something back, and it's worth seeing if we get something back.
I mean, because then if you don't get it, if you don't see it, you'll go in and get another one. But what we know is that at 0.2, you don't see very much. And what good does that do? So then then they tell you you don't have anything there, and you do, and there is something there. So we know.
He knows I'm getting the radiation, so he knows that I'm getting that.
Okay, but the doctors know. We know that an absolute minimum of 0.2 could show a result. But when they did the FDA approval for what you're looking at on recurrence, the minimum was, Kimmy, we're still, she figured it out. Sorry, guys, I've literally got 2 minutes because we've got another group coming in.
Okay, this can wait.
We knew the low was 0.5 and we got good results at 0.65. So I have to say, a doctor that wants to do it at 0.2, it doesn't make sense to me, but you can do it, but you may not get a result.
Well,
and what I would say to Jeff Preston is, if you want to get a result, and if there's something there, hang on until 0.65. If she wants you to get the best treatment, hang on. If she doesn't care about the best treatment.
You see, I asked Dr. Wong about that, and she said absolutely no. She said, do not wait. This is aggressive. No, we got to go after it right now. So
Jeff, you said that you just did a lab test and you don't have the results yet, right?
Correct. Yes.
So chances are, as soon as you get the results tomorrow or tonight or whatever, you're going to be in the sweet spot. If it went up 2 points in a month, chances are that you could very well be at the 0.5 to 6 level already and ready to go. And then
Dr. Mel told me it was anything over, I needed to be at 0.5 in order to be useful. Dr. Lee, the radiologist, really started off hesitating about whether I should even get one because, you get positive and you get, negative results when you really have something. And he almost, I had to push him to say, I really want to get this, which I was a little surprised at.
If your results are like 0.5 when you get the results tomorrow, just start leaning on some docs and tell them you want to get a PSMA scan and try to get some response from somebody. Somebody will get it for you.
Okay. And then as far as the other two questions, I'll come back next Monday. I don't see the doc next week for this until Tuesday. So if we can talk about that next Monday, I'll be okay for questions I might ask him on Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, to answer your question very quickly, what was you were a 4+4, right?
No, 4 + 3.
I thought Epstein confirmed a 4+4 for you.
The pathology report from the full prostate came back and said 4 + 3. And Mal said, well, this is good news because it's not an 8, it's a 7. Well, it's not great news, but it's better than it would have been.
Dr. Epstein say on the second opinion of the prostate?
He didn't. I didn't have a second opinion on the full prostate.
Oh, you didn't get a second opinion on the full prostate?
Just on the biopsy.
Okay, well, I would get a second opinion on the full prostate since they changed that, because if you're a 4+4, it's a different amount of hormone therapy to if you're a 4+3, and you want to be absolutely sure. So send that post-op pathology to Epstein and have him confirm whether you're a 4+3 or a 4+4. If he thought you were a 4+4 on your biopsy, I would go back to him and check with Epstein.
Okay, and I can just ask Mal to do that?
Yeah, tell Moore that you'd like Epstein to give you a second opinion because you're looking at how long you have to stay on ADT.
Okay, good, fair enough. Thank you.
All right, guys, gotta go. Sorry.
Okay.
And Alan,
Thanks,
Alan,
everyone.
Alan, we'll talk again, but the bottom line is you may see nothing, but then, don't come crying over spilt milk if you see nothing. All right?
I'm okay with that, but I'll email you because he was pretty adamant that he wanted to do that.
Good.
I'll go talk to my wife to make
Have
sure.
to email me. Every doc's different. If that's what he wants to do, that's what he wants to do. But don't be surprised if you don't see anything. That's all I'm saying.
And he said that. He said you might not see it. I mean, he was up front.
Well, you won't. But if you wait till the PSA's a little higher, you might see something, and then that's the trade-off.
Yeah, Wong didn't.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
So the Maddens